Welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where master business coach Janet Fish and her special guests explore the characteristics and traits that lead entrepreneurs to success. Get ready for real conversations of what it takes to overcome real challenges and break away from your competition. Here's your host, Janet Fish.
Hey, thanks, Ben. If you're a woman over 50, this episode is for you. Self-proclaimed spunky old broad, Gayle Carson, shares her amazing journey of entrepreneurship. She started her first business at age 13 and has been going gangbusters ever since. Gayle shares advice from her 70 years as an entrepreneur. In this episode, we talk about overcoming the challenge of being alone as an entrepreneur, using your skills to do the work that you love, how life is all about choices, and how we miss our shoes. We share a hope of face-to-face meetings where we can wear our favorite shoes again. I hope you enjoy our chat. All right, good morning, Gayle Carson. It is so awesome to have you, and welcome, Breakaway Entrepreneurs. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Janet, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I just met you the other day, and on a Zoom call, because that's kind of how we live our lives these days. And I was just so intrigued by you. I wanted to bring you on and share you with my listeners. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start with your bio, so give people a little bit of idea of who you are. And it's long and impressive, so I'm going to go through it. After college, Gayle moved to Miami to get her first job in 2 weeks. 1 year later, she bought the business and proceeded to diversify its sales base from 1 to 7 divisions and eventually became the largest independent organization in the industry. Impressive. As CEO, Gayle managed a diverse staff of over 350 people, graduated more than 1 million students from her training programs, and personally managed the company's complex payroll. While serving as CEO of her business, she received her doctorate from Nova Southeastern University, selected as the legend of the speaking profession. I love that. She currently hosts over a dozen radio shows per month and is the founder of the, how do you pronounce it?
SOB.
Okay, the SOB Radio Network. Okay, and that's so great because you don't have it in here, but we're going to talk a lot about SOB because I'm super excited about that. And that was part of why I was like, I just love this lady. So let me do that again. She currently hosts over a dozen radio shows per month and is the founder of the SOBRadionetwork.com and is also the only woman in the world who has a doctorate, a CSP, which is a certified speaking professional, a CMC, certified management consultant, and an FIMC fellow to the Institute of Management Consultants. Wow. And you're only like 35.
And a nickel, Janet. That and a nickel will get me, you know what.
I was going to say, and you're only 35. How'd you do that in such little time? All right. So tell me, just give us a little meat on the bone of like how you got to be where you are. Give me a little bit of the journey. I mean, obviously very impressive. And then I want to dive right into the SOB part of it. But just give us a little bit of your journey and in how you became the amazing woman that you are today.
Well, first of all, I have to credit my mom with that because she was really my biggest mentor. Even though she was never a professional woman or a businesswoman, just the way we were raised, my sister and I, we were both very successful. My sister in a completely different field, but the same principles. But I started actually working when I was 13 years old. I had broken 22 pair of glasses, and my father told me if I broke another pair, I was going to buy them. So I went to the optometrist, picked up my new pair of glasses, came down to the curb where my father had parked, put the glasses on the seat of the car and promptly sat on them and broke them. So the only thing available back, this is the 50s, was babysitting, which of course I'm not very good at and didn't want to do. So I said, can I get a real job? And my father said, yes, if someone will hire you. You know, I was 13 years old. But that was the day of newspapers. And I went to the newspaper and went through the ads and decided I would make a perfect Avon lady. And so I started selling Avon Cosmetics door to door at 13 and became the top salesperson in our whole area because I thought it was great. Knocking on people's doors, they let me in, they were home. I sat on the couch, and once I sat down, I wasn't getting up until they bought. And that, every year after that, I created a job that I wanted to do to get experience. And when I went to college at 17, I also worked in college, teaching, modeling and teaching, and also modeling at the same time. And then I decided I wanted to get out of school early. So I went to day school and night school, and I graduated early. And then I had the opportunity when I moved to Miami, and I've made the most of it. So that's kind of my journey.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. From Avon lady to like the CEO extraordinaire. All right, so talk a little bit about the SOB radio network, or just the SOB in general.
Well, SOB stands for Spunky Old Broad, and that's who I am. But SOB for everybody else stands for Spunky, Open, and Brave, which is what I want my women to be. And the SOB Radio Network is a group of, I have, these 12 radio shows, 3 different genres, and one of them is for women 50 plus. And so this network, I have women over 50 doing shows for women over 50. And from A to Z, from finance to postmenopause. So it's quite a variety, but they're very good. My oldest woman is 87. She has a fantastic following. She's been doing the show for 7 years. So I'm really proud of them. And so that's the story. I have a SOB virtual club on Facebook, and I have online courses for them. And I just love I love them.
So any woman 50 and older can join your Facebook group, the SOB
Absolutely.
group.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll put a link to it. I'll find it and I'll put a link to it down below.
Thank you.
So, what made you focus on women and women over 50?
Well, I never did before. In my first business, I was training, and I started them at age 2, and we went all the way up to whenever, because it was modeling and court reporting and travel and fashion merchandising and that whole scene. And then when I went on the speaking circuit, which I did for 20 some years, and I spoke in 50 countries in 49 states, I spoke on leadership and team building and customer service and things like that, because I had experienced all of those in my businesses. And then when I decided to do this, I think I was 70 when I started it. And I just thought, there are so many women who turn 50 and they think it's over. And here I am 70. Now I'll be 83 next month.
Oh, wow.
And, and they just think it's over, and it's not over. There's just so much they can do. Look at, so many of these women who have gone on to do fabulous things, and they're much over 50. So, that's why I started it, because I wanted to give women hope. I wanted to give them motivation. I wanted to give them the inspiration to finally, in fact, I'm creating now a mastermind group just for them, so they can live the life they've always wanted to live, but they're feeling unfulfilled. So if a woman who's listening to this, by the way, feels they are unfulfilled and wants a direction on how to achieve that, you can get in touch with me and I'll describe my mastermind group to you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's totally awesome. So on this podcast, we talk a lot about entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs. And one of the areas that I really like to focus on is the challenges that entrepreneurs face and how they overcome them. So can you talk a little bit about, in your long journey as an entrepreneur, some of the things that you have experienced that were challenges and how you overcame them?
Well, all kinds of challenges that I just, a lot of them, I just don't remember, Janet, because I don't dwell on what didn't work. I dwell on what's coming up. But I think the biggest issues that entrepreneurs face is, number one, they are alone. When they start out, they're alone. And some people are not ready for that. Some people need a whole team around them. Now, it's easier now than when I started, because the world is virtual. So you can hire contractors and they don't have to be physically in your space. and you can work on a contracted basis. When I went into business, I mean, the internet wasn't even heard of yet. And so there's cost factors. And of course, when I started, there were no credit cards. Women were not able to get loans. I built my credit by putting a lot of things on layaway and paying $10 to $15 every single month, so that I built up my credit. So I think the first thing is loneliness. I think the second thing is financing. I think the third thing, especially if you come from a corporate arena, realizing that you're chief cook and bottle washer, and yes, you do take out the trash, and yes, you do pick up all the horrible things. So I think those are the really difficult things you've got to think about in the beginning. The other thing is being able, and this is very difficult, I think, to make the right choices, because there are going to be people and opportunities coming at you from every direction. Some are great and valuable, and some will just take your money. So I think you have to make a lot of really good, intelligent choices, and that is not always easy. So those are some of the things I think that entrepreneurs deal with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I personally came from a corporate background. So I was really successful in the corporate world until I quit my job in I think it was March of 2005 or whenever that, but it was in 2005. And I'm, same thing. I all of a sudden realized that I had to do everything, which was fine. The other thing that I realized is, because I went from a sales executive in Silicon Valley, California, to my first job as an entrepreneur was land development in Mexico. Like, okay, I mean, could you go from one to the further extreme? And I had two things going for me. Three things. One is I was just going to go for it, and I was going to be successful no matter what. So persistence. Two, I realized early on that the skills that I used as a sales manager were the same skills I used to raise $5 million to do land development in Mexico. So it's the skills, just because you're in a different industry or whatever, it's going back to what your skills are. And then the third thing, kind of to your point, is I found a partner. I found someone who knew how to do land development in Mexico, because I didn't, and I just worked really hard to figure it out. The other thing that I see, because I've coached over 1,000 people, is exactly what you're talking about, like the community of entrepreneurs. I don't know how anybody does it without the community of entrepreneurs. And I love that you're growing your community of women over 50, because that's what we need. I don't know anybody who can succeed in this craziness of being an entrepreneur without support and all of that. So can you talk a little bit about how that has played a role for you?
Well, so yeah, I think first of all, I want to comment on a couple of things you said. Number one, you were a sales person, and selling is selling is selling, no matter what industry you're in. And you're so fortunate to have those skills. Number two, I never worked for anyone. I mean, even in the jobs I created, like at radio stations and things like that, I created those jobs. And when I left, they were not there anymore. It was just, I went in and I got those jobs. And when I was done with them, which was usually a summer, they didn't exist anymore. So I never worked for anybody, because I just felt, I know this sounds crazy, but I just felt I could never do something stupid if I was told to do it, and I didn't want to do it. So I just decided I was going to work for myself. And I was in my mid-20s to probably late 20s before I even knew people had benefits. I didn't know people got paid vacations. I didn't know they had, insurance or anything like that. I paid for everything because I didn't know any better, and because I was an entrepreneur and it was my business. Now, in terms of what I'm doing now, it's many of the women in my group are not professionals. They're retired, but they're doing interesting things. And the interesting thing, to join my group, you tell me what your biggest pain is and what your biggest joy is. And the biggest pain is pain. Normally, they tell me about their knees and their ankles and their whatever, but their biggest joy is either their grandchildren or freedom or not caring what anybody thinks. Those are the three biggest joys that they have. So I talked to someone the other day who was interested in my mastermind group, and she's a pecan farmer. And I learned, pecans fall to the ground. You pick the pecans up, they're good, and she roasts them. And, I didn't know that's what she did when she joined my group. But because she reached out to me and said, I'd be interested in your mastermind group, and she's really not a fit for it, but we talked, I found out she's a pecan farmer. So, I just, I try to encourage them every way I can. I'm in there every day with them doing some kind of message. And then I do a Facebook Live for them every Monday.
So what would you, one of the things that I'm kind of focused on now that we are in coming up on a year of pandemic and job losses and all those kind of things. One of the things that I'm finding is a wealth of people, both male and female, but for you, maybe just females, that realize that their jobs aren't going to be coming back, right? So I'm working with a lot of people in the creation of new careers because the career that they had is not coming back.
You're right on target, Janet.
So talk a little bit about that and what your advice would be for people who are coming to the realization that, that job isn't going to come back. So now what do I do?
Well, first of all, even if the job does come back, it's going to come back differently.
Yeah.
So I tell people there is no new normal. There's just new, and you have to be prepared for it. Now, that might mean continually working virtually. It might mean that you're placed in a different position. It might mean that you're downsized. So I think it's really important for people to say, and I believe this anyway, and this is how I've always lived my life, although it's changed as my personal life changed, marriage, kids, all of that kind of thing. But the thing that I think is most important is saying to yourself, what is it that truly makes me happy? For example, I talk about the fact that I go to bed happy, I get up happy, and then I do what I love all day long. And if I didn't, I wouldn't do it anymore. So I think it's really taking a good look in the mirror and saying, okay, and this is whether you're married, single, divorced, kids, no kids, grandkids, whatever, what makes you happy? Now, I think I mentioned to you early on that I'm an animal person and one of my cats is in the hospital right now. My newsletter goes out to what I thought was primarily women, but I wrote a little piece in there about my cat being sick. I didn't know then how long he would be in the hospital, etc. But I got the most beautiful message today, 6 lines from a man, telling me about how to deal with this and so forth and so on, which I replied to him, I've had many animals and so forth, but you never know who you're talking to. So you need to be able to love what you're doing. And I know people who are trapped in jobs because of paychecks, because of benefits, because of insurance. And I'm not saying that's wrong. There are people that need to do that. You've got to put food on the table. But then hopefully there's another life outside of that. When you go home, you're not so drained that all I want to do is go to bed, that you've got something that keeps your interest. So I think the most important thing, Janet, and that's probably, I know what you're coaching your people on, is what makes you happy and how can you make a living at that?
Yeah.
It's really as simple as those two things.
Well, and I'll add a third to that, and that is utilizing the skills that you have. Because I've coached people who one most notable, this was many, many, many years ago, but she was in corporate America. She worked for a big tech company and she was in HR. And she came to me and she said, I want to go into real estate. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you know about real estate? I don't know anything about real estate, but I love real estate. Well, how do you know you love real estate if you don't know anything about real estate? Now, I'm the last person to criticize that because I went from selling software to land development in Mexico. But I did. So I kind of coach find what you love to do. Doesn't necessarily mean I just love animals. It could be I love, the camaraderie of that, or expand it to what you're good at and your skills, and then find something that resonates within that area. And so I just think it's important. And my advice for her was go find somebody who knows real. If you think you love real estate, go find somebody that knows real estate and partner with them and figure out
work
whether
for
you
free
love it or
for
not.
30 days in a real estate company and see if this is all you think it is, because it isn't.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I was in real estate with my husband. That was another one of my businesses. And he did the construction and I did the money. And it was a great team because I don't know anything about construction and he was terrible at money. So it worked out well. But, I would never sell real estate because I could not take going to all these homes or buildings and showing them something and then not having anybody buy, or saying we're going to do this, or yes, I want this contract, and then reneging on it. That's just not me. So we did real estate development. So I think it's important, but I did have a real estate school. That was one of my businesses.
Yeah.
I taught people to get their real estate license. But I do think that interning, even if you're 50 or 60 years old. In fact, I don't know if you ever watched that movie with Robert De Niro, The Intern. Oh, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. I love it. I laughed every time I see it because he was brilliant. And but he was like 50 years older than everybody else that was in the company, but he became their buddy. And it was really a great movie, but with Anne Hathaway too. But, being an intern, no matter what your age, is a great way to learn, is this for me? And it's okay to go to somebody and say, look, I want to intern here for, 30 days and see what it is, but I'll be helpful in every way I can, even if it's going for coffee. Yeah. So, I think there's a benefit to that.
I think there's a great benefit of that. I also would say find mentors. If you can't be an intern, find somebody to mentor you. And don't be afraid to ask, because I've had clients who are afraid to ask. And I said, people love to help people. That's my dad, who was the most amazing sales guy I've ever met. But he was always just so interested in people, and people want to help people. I don't think anybody has ever come to me, and Gayle, you're probably the same, come to me and said, Jan, I'd really like, your advice on this, or I'd like you to mentor me on this, or I'd like to explore this with you. I've never said no.
Well, if you do go to someone, the only thing they can say is yes or no. So you've got a 50-50 shot. I mentor, I'm a facilitator for a not-for-profit group, for a group of a woman-owned consortium here. And they're all not-for-profits. I have like Habitat for Humanity, Girl Scouts, people like that. And we meet once a month for 3 hours, or now it's down to 2 hours because we do it virtually. Amazing. Took us 3.5 hours when we met in person, and it takes sometimes less than 2 hours when we were doing it virtually. But, it's, although I don't come from the not-for-profit space, I can give them help. I ask questions that make them think, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that getting a mentor, but a mentor is not someone who is your Bible. Don't overuse them. Don't take advantage of them. When you have a clear problem, or you really have a path that you need to make a decision on, that's when you go to a mentor. Or there are courses that you need to take and you need to choose what should you take. That's when you go to a mentor. You don't go to a mentor for every little thing, because then you wear out your welcome.
Yeah. And I also think that having more than one is not a bad idea, because just listening to what a person says to you, they're coming at it from their perspective, and it may or may not be the right advice for you. So I always tell people when they come to me, or even if I'm coaching them, they're paying me to coach them, I give them my thoughts, but they still have to kind of make it theirs, and not just blindly follow what anybody tells them to do. I think there's a huge danger there.
You don't want anybody coming back and say, well, you told me to.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But I hope people understand that life is all about choices. Mm-hmm. And you're going to make good ones and you're going to make bad ones. And you asked me, what are some of the mistakes I've made? thinking back, and it's really hard to think about this.
I said challenges. I didn't say mistakes. I just want to be clear.
Challenges, all right. Well, challenges, gosh, I have challenges every day. So I'll go back to, I don't remember.
Well, we all make them, and we all hope that that they make us a little bit stronger. All right. So, Gayle, you talked about, and obviously you are, you are like the speaker extraordinaire, legend of the speaking profession.
A legend, not a legend, a legend.
Okay, a legend of the speaking profession. Clearly now you're a little grounded in the speaking world, so, or in-person speaking. So can you talk a little bit about how the world changed in March as far as speaking is concerned, and how people might, I'm doing a virtual summit in March. I probably never would have done a virtual summit. I probably wouldn't have done it live. So talk about how that's changed for you and how people can take advantage of where we are versus crawl in a hole and wait for the new normal.
Well, I used to travel 4 or 5 times a month to speak, etc. And I came back on March 14th from San Diego to Miami. I had been one of the icons at Steve Olsher's New Media Summit. And I was supposed to go back the next week for a speech. Well, of course, the next day they closed everything, and that was all she wrote. And I've been isolated ever since. And then the speech that I was supposed to give in March of last year was just scheduled for March of this year, but it's back in California, and you know what California is going through.
Right.
So I know that's not going to happen, and I'm not going anywhere near there. So everything has turned virtual. Now, it is better because you can attract more people because they don't have to get on a plane, they don't have to pay for a hotel, et cetera, et cetera. So you're getting global recognition as opposed to, well, should I really fly to this event kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Number 2, it gives you a much more diverse audience and opinions, because when you do Q&A and things like that, you get a lot of different areas. So it's opened up a lot of opportunities for people. What I don't like is how people appear on Zoom. I would never appear without my hair done or makeup on or the right color. And people come on and they look like they just got out of bed. And I think, this is a professional. This is someone who wants to build a business. It doesn't make sense to me. Not that you have to be in Dior clothing, but you should look presentable,
Right.
So, and it's also being interesting enough so that, you aren't a wooden, talking head. And that's not easy. Now, some of my peers, and really people a lot younger than I, use all this fancy technology. They have stuff flying from here and flying from there and out and it. When I do something, I just talk. You either want me or you don't want me. And I don't use all the fancy whatevers. And but it has given me a greater diversity of audience.
Absolutely.
And also, in a way, a diversity of subject area. I've been known for not only my 50 plus, but also media. So I have a great online course on how to get on TV. And if people follow it, they will get on TV. Some people take the course and they don't do anything with it. It's like anything else. You take a course and then you don't do anything with it. So I have this kind of dual personality, the media personality as you, and then also the women 50 plus. But sometimes I do a lot of study with futurists. So I look at what's coming and I see with artificial intelligence and all the robotics and the stuff that's going on with research. People talk about, well, I don't want to take a vaccine. Usually takes 10 years. Now it's less than a year. And they just, well, that's because there's new science. Yeah. There's new AI. There's new robotics. They can even now make skin that you can put on yourself, not yourself, but, surgically, that
sure.
Doctor, that works because it's different. It's new. We're progressing. Look at the self-driving cars.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on. So I study that, and that gives me a perspective and a look into the future, going back to what you're saying about where will I work and what kind of job do I want. What is it that you can do that you've never thought about before, but really for example, you and I talked about our love of animals.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to work in an animal hospital. And that doesn't mean I'm going to work at the Humane Society. But maybe I would be a dog walker. I don't know. Maybe I would love to have pet products because I would get so excited about all the goodies that would be available for them. There might be a whole bunch of different things I could do besides being responsible and taking care of them all day or getting them well.
Right.
So you just have to look at things from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I came into this whole pandemic thing last year with just, I'm going to run as hard as I can towards something because it's changed. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I did have a few moments that I needed to back off and pause. But I think that anybody's listening and thinking, I don't know what to do because my world has changed, I would agree with you. I would encourage them to follow what they love to do, because I think that's really important, or what they love, and find new ways to take advantage of a situation. And I always say, find the pain. Like, I coach all of my clients to go find the pain. Go find somebody who has a need that you can fill, right? I can't leave my house, or I'm worried about the pandemic, but you can come to my house and walk my dog, or, whatever it is. Find the pain and then find a way that you can solve it, because I think we need to be innovative in this time, instead of shying away from the newness and the fact that the old is not coming back.
That's right. And the other thing is, if you I'm immune compromised, so I can't go anywhere. I go to the doctors and the hospitals. My car is programmed home, hospital. But I'm not depressed. I'm busy every day. I talk to people every day. There are new opportunities that come every day. There are things I turn down every day. There are things I accept every day. And I've people in my building have come out of the woodwork that I didn't even know to help. A woman I didn't even know when it first began. I opened my door. There were 24 rolls of toilet paper that she had left for me, and I didn't even know who she was. But she said, I figured I don't think you can get out. And I know, you're over 50, and I just wanted to make sure you had toilet paper. That wasn't toilet paper. You couldn't get it.
Right.
So, but it's just amazing. A woman called me today and said, have you had lunch? And I said, well, not yet. I think it was 11 o'clock. And I said, not yet. She said, well, I'm cooking hot dogs. You want me to cook you some hot dogs? And I said, okay. And so I came down to her place, one floor below, picked up the 2 hot dogs and buns, and came back up and had my lunch.
Oh, that's
so,
sweet.
it's just amazing. That's why I tell people, pay it forward, because it comes back to you. It really does.
Oh, yeah. I have a dear friend she wasn't as dear a friend as she is now, who, also is compromised, and they won't go into the house. They would have their meals or the food or groceries delivered to them. And I'm like, well, every time I went to Trader Joe's, because I knew they were big Trader Joe's shoppers. Every time I went to Trader Joe's, I'd call them and I'd say, I'm going to Trader Joe's. What do you need? And they'd give me a list, and I'd drop it off at their house. And I think it's a great opportunity to become closer, even though we're further away.
Absolutely.
And I am absolutely sure that you have taken advantage of Zoom, as I have, to continue to grow my business, even though I can't necessarily go out and meet with anybody.
Well, I can tell you, I know some people say I'm Zoomed to death, and I am Zoomed to death. My problem with Zoom is that everything is at the same time. I have 3 meetings at 10, or 2 meetings at 12, or 4 meetings at 3, and I have to make a decision. What do I go to? So it would be nice if one was at 9, one was at 10, one was 11, but that's not the way it is. So I make choices again. But I agree. I think I am a people person. I love people.
Yep.
But guess what? I don't care if I go anywhere again.
Yeah.
The only place I really want to go is back and forth, like I used to California. I would go because I had 2 homes in California.
Mm-hmm.
I had one in Palm Springs and one in San Diego. And I sold them both because what's the point? I knew I wasn't going to get there for 10 months. I didn't want anybody renting.
Right.
So my son's out there, and he said, look, Mom, when you're ready to come out, which may be longer than we think now with what California's going through, we'll find you a place. And if you want to stay in Rancho Mirage, which is part of Palm Springs, you'll stay with us because you can have your whole private suite. He has a whole section of his house, which I would be in, that nobody's there, So he said, whether you come for a week or whether you come for 9 months, you can stay with us, no problem. So, whether I'll decide to be bi-coastal as I was, and he said, if you decide you do want to stay in Miami as well, then we're going to get you a 3-bedroom apartment so that we'll have a place to stay when we come. And therefore, you have one room for you, one room for your office, and one room for us. And that's what we'll do. But whatever it is, it's your choice to do it. So I don't think, and I know this sounds creepy to people who know me, I don't think I'll be going to conferences again. Janet, I just don't feel like I need to.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it's going to be a hybrid. I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, it's going to be 2 years before anything really gets back to where it was.
Yeah.
So in that time, I don't think I'm going to care whether I go again.
Yeah.
If people want to find me, they'll find me, and I'll have something developed, and they'll either follow it or not.
Yeah. Well, I have a number of really good friends who have commented that this has given them a chance to really assess their lives and say, when we go back, I'm not going to go back to 65 meetings in a week and getting in the car and running here and running there and running there. I will say one thing which just popped into my head, and I don't even know why I'm going to share this, but I have put on more makeup because I'm on Zoom every single day, right? But
Ditto.
Yeah, so you got to do the hair and put on a little makeup. I'm wearing like these, sweatpants, these wild little sweatpants things, right? But one of the things that because no one can see them, but one of the things that I miss the most are my shoes, like my boots. Like I have all these really cool boots, and they haven't even gotten out of I could put them away in the spring, and then I usually get them out in the fall. And I wear the same pair of Uggs every single day because I don't go anywhere.
Listen, I'll ditto that. I have clothes that I haven't worn yet that I bought because thinking I was going to X, Y, and Z. So they're still in my closet with tags because I've never worn them. Since March, I have been in my tops and I've got leggings on. I've got gorgeous jewelry. I don't wear it. I have beautiful things. In fact, I have 3 sets of beautiful things because I have my stuff from my Palm Springs home. I have my stuff from my San Diego home, all of which is in storage. And I have a full closet here. And it's all sitting.
Yeah.
It's all sitting because I agree with you. I mean, yeah, I put the makeup on and I have my hair, but I got my shirt and my leggings.
Yeah.
And
I usually throw a scarf on, and I forgot to do that today because I was a little bit in a hurry. I'm on this summit this afternoon. Do you know Kimberly Whitecamp?
Kimberly
Whitecamp?
No, I know a lot of Kimberlys, but not Whitecamp.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that we run in some of the same circles. I didn't know. So she's doing a virtual summit that I'm on this afternoon. And so anyway, I was running a little behind, so I didn't get to put at least a scarf on or whatever. But anyway.
Well, so funny. I had a meeting. I did a meeting on Friday, Leading in Turbulent Times. And the original title they gave it was Leading in Turbulent Times, creating an emergency response plan. And I said, I don't want to talk about an emergency response plan. So we changed it to creating a current response plan.
Oh, there you go.
Every one of the women on there is a professional woman, and every one of them looked lovely. And every one of them was either in yoga pants, sweatpants. We didn't see it, of course, but when we were talking, they said, well, I'm wearing my yoga pants today or in my sweatpants or whatever. They were beautiful from the top up.
Yeah.
And luckily, they're not in one of those commercials where you get up and you see the wonderful bottoms,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the way it is.
It's the way it is. All right, Gayle, it has been really, really lovely chatting with you. You are a lovely woman. I'm going to go and join your Facebook Spunky Old Broad for sure.
Yeah, and that's my website. So if anybody wants to go to my courses, they're separate. I mean, I have the sobuniversity.com. I have a store with, as a matter of fact, my coffee cups and my
I love that.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of sayings, and I've got Spunky Old Broad leggings and T-shirts and so forth. But everything is on my website, spunkyoldbroad.com. They can find everything.
All right, there's a link down in the show notes. I'm going to be one of your spunky old broads, and I am sure that I will see you again in the near future.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, one more thing. I just want to remind our breakaway entrepreneurs that while it's true that success starts with your mindset, it takes massive action to get you there. And I know that you know just about that, don't you, Gayle?
Massive action.
Massive action. All right, Gayle, it was wonderful having you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
All right, Ben, take us out.
Thank you for listening to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast. If you like the show, please rate, recommend, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts so we can share more actionable insights with the entrepreneur community. Until next time, challenge your mindset, be bold, take action, and financial freedom will follow. You can get helpful resources and templates to guide and inspire you from Janet's free Breakaway Entrepreneur Toolkit. Get it now by going to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching.com/toolkit.